Welcome to Prime Life. We call it Retirement 2.0. Leave each episode with tips and new ideas to help you navigate retirement in our new age. It's your time. Make it count.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical, investment, or financial advice. We do not sponsor or endorse any of the individuals, companies, products, or services featured on this podcast. Any statements or opinions expressed are of the individual who makes them. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Welcome back to the Prime Life Podcast, where we explore the ideas, innovations, and people shaping the future of longevity. If you're interested in the future of how to save for retirement, longevity, innovation, and bringing solutions to the people that truly need them, this is an episode you won't want to miss. I am delighted to introduce Frank Sentner. He's a 50-year veteran of the insurance technology business. As a systems designer, company founder, consultant, and advisor to insurance businesses and their technology solution providers. And I've known Frank over the years, and I watch him out there, and he just keeps doing more and more. He's amazing. Frank, without further ado, welcome to the Prime Life Podcast. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you very much, Mary. I appreciate being here. As you mentioned, I've been in the insurance technology business for 50 years, and that still represents a fair amount of the time that I devote in my life. But family is extremely important to me and my wife, Annette. We have 2 daughters and 2 granddaughters, and my community is very important to me, and I'm very active in a number of civic groups. I had a career in which I built a couple of systems and created a company with some partners and sold that, and the software that we built 36, 7, whatever it is, years ago is still running some of the largest insurance brokers in the world, Marsh MMA, BB&T. Actually, they're called Truist Insurance now, and USI. I had some experience in the early 2000 teens in which I was working with startups again. And I sort of rediscovered my entrepreneurial roots, pivoted my consulting practice from fee for service to equity for service, and have worked with many startups and many innovation communities over the last dozen or so years. Currently, I'm on the advisory board for 8 insurance technology firms focused on the property and casualty insurance distribution space.
Yeah. Again, I've seen you out there. You continue to grow. You continue to put yourself out there and provide your expertise to individuals that need it so much, especially that startup community that you mentioned. So you've talked a little bit about that, but why do you still love the insurance technology industry?
I was one of those kids that read science fiction books under the covers after we were supposed to be asleep, voraciously. And I've always been fascinated by technology. My undergraduate degree is in sociology, so nothing at all related to tech. But I was fortunate to get a job where the sales manager was my best friend, and that was my sole criteria for being hired. And I was self-taught and had a lot of very wonderful technology people that I worked with over the years. And I've remained fascinated by the changes that have taken place in our industry. So 50 years in insurance technology, I come from where mainframes were in these big clean rooms with raised floors and special air conditioning and punch cards and mag tape, to a world in which this thing here has thousands of times more power than any of those mainframes ever had. And although I've seen enormous changes in technology, most recent being AI, agentic AI in particular, we're still struggling with some of the same issues that I discovered when I became part of the industry in terms of how we move data and use data. I'm very passionate about data and data privacy rights and concerned about what I'm seeing today. But mostly it's a matter of curiosity. We still haven't reached the world as described by Isaac Asimov. And so until we get there, I'm going to continue to be hungry for understanding what's happening in the technology space.
Yeah, I love what you just said, and it makes total sense to me. And I appreciate all the transformations you've seen, but yet there's still room for improvement. I also appreciate your passionate ideology about the importance of privacy with data, because I think that will still always be so important, not only as a consumer, but to the companies like the insurance industry, which you and I are both in. I also know that you are mentally and physically healthy. And I'm just curious, like, how do you do it?
Well, I mean, part of it is a commitment to staying active. And I've been active throughout my life, enjoyed sports. My wife Annette and I started doing Pilates maybe 22 years ago and have gone fairly regularly every week for an hour session, 2 separate hourly sessions. We walk a lot, we hike a lot. We recently got back from a trip to the Scottish Isles, the Shetlands and the Orkneys, and had some fairly significant nature walks there. And part of that curiosity and desire to see the world is based in the fact that we're physically able to do it. I got married right out of college and had children within a couple of years. And so the early years were devoted to family and building businesses and so forth. So we didn't get to travel. And now we can. And the only way to do that feasibly is if you're healthy. I also have had a lifelong interest in consciousness and meditation. I started in college with TM. I struggled for many, many years, and I was fortunate to be part of a men's group and some personal growth groups. And everyone told me you need to meditate if you're going to stay mentally healthy. I certainly knew that I needed something, but it took me a long time to find it. I was very fortunate. I went to a Vipassana meditation retreat up in Shelburne, Massachusetts, just up the river, about an hour, and discovered a form of meditation that works for me. It uses body scanning. And I go for a 10-day meditation retreat, silent, vegetarian, no reading, no books, no devices, of course, nothing really except meditation, eating and sleeping. I go every year, have for nearly 20 years, and I meditate for an hour every morning. And that sort of starts me off for the day. You know, I try not to judge. I am still a definite work in progress.
I think for all of us, and I do, again, appreciate all of what you just said about the meditation. I myself meditate and have for many years, not as many as I would have liked, because it took me a while to figure out the importance of that. I do a lot of deep breathing, and absolutely, when you were talking about Pilates and doing all of that, I started my career in the health and wellness space. So that's one of the things I always tell people that I know, or I hope that I can have control over every day when I get up. Most of the time, I'm not sure if I feel like exercising, but I do it anyway because it's like the mind, body, and soul kind of mentality. On Prime Life Podcast, we're always talking about living longer, living better. And part of that, I feel like there's some common denominators. I find individuals who are lifelong learners. I find individuals who keep moving. I find individuals who have a strong social network. And I would think, Frank, in the work that you do with startups, that's also become a very integral part. In addition to your family that you mentioned earlier, your wife that you've been married to many years and your children and grandchildren, that is a really nice network of individuals that provide that socialization and that ability to just have discussions, you know, agreeing and disagreeing, and again, keeping your mind sharp and being able to learn from others continuously. You also mentioned you travel. And why do you think travel is so important, especially as we get older, if we are physically able to travel? What do you find there that benefit? I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you.
I'm with our greatest literary local light and international light, Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens, who famously said that travel is fatal to prejudice. He further went on to say that many of the people in our country are desperately in need of such. So, you know, I'm curious. Again, it goes back to that reading under the covers as a child and wanting to know what makes the world tick. You really need to get out there, and if we did more meeting with people who we believe are different from us, we might find, and we have found in our travels, that they're not so different. They struggle with the same challenges. They're pleased and excited by the same opportunities. Everywhere we go, we have met absolutely lovely people. I've heard lots of negative things about different parts of the world, and we hear that. But when you get there and you start talking to local people, they're also very curious and wondering about your life and what the world is like where you come from. just a wonderful experience all around.
I think I agree with you. You learn so much about other people's cultures, their beliefs, and even if you disagree, perhaps that's okay. But I do think you find a lot of commonality because humans are humans.
Yep.
And I love that people, for the most part, in life, all want the same things in terms of we want to be healthy and happy. We want our kids to be the same, our families, and we want to have some good friends that we can count on. What I love about travel, even though I don't get to do as much as I'd like, is I like the different cuisines. And we know too, that's part of living longer, living better, healthier. Not that we have to eat healthy 24/7, but it's good to taste other cultures, cuisines, and learn about why they grow certain herbs and plants and vegetables that perhaps we don't. It just gives us a great understanding and appreciation, I think, of the world. I would love for you, as we kind of grow a little bit closer to the end of our conversation, to talk a little bit about your passions. And then I would love for you to share with our audience a couple of takeaways that you believe they can take action on if they choose to.
Okay. Well, as we've already discussed, I'm passionate about travel. I am passionate about data, and that seems odd to a lot of people, I know. But I have seen over many years, and in particular since I'm and have been focused on the insurance industry, and built several systems, I recognize how critically important to our business, the protection of people's property and lives, how absolutely critical to that process data is. And I want data to be used properly. There are a lot of issues with the way the insurance business handled data today. There are a lot of companies that have aggregated enormous databases without real direct buy-in from the people from whom they've gotten that data. And how we all see it on every website we go to, it pops up and says, do you want to accept these cookies? When people are like, yeah, just let me in. Cookies? What are cookies? I think if you said to people, would you like to share your personal data with this website for the purposes of marketing both to you and to others? I think they might think twice about that. I think many people, as I have begun doing, opt out and say, no, only the most critical pieces of data that you need to give me what I need from you. That's all I want you to have. I was on a call with Accord, the industry standards body, and a group of representatives from insurance agency and broker trade associations representing the largest down to the very smallest agents, primarily focused on property and casualty, although life and health to a certain extent. And we all agreed that we're not doing a good job as an industry of alerting people to the fact that their data is being collected and used for purposes other than what they might have agreed to. And so that's a real passion of mine, as you can tell. Technology fascinates me. I try to stay in the present during my meditation. I am passionate about that. And of course, about my family and friends and my city. We live in such a wonderful place, Mary, and it is so undervalued by people outside of the city of Hartford. It's such a challenge for any city, but especially a small one with as little tax base as we have, to be able to run at a profit. And make no mistake, cities need to run at a profit. There is no value for the residents if we run deficits, if we're in debt. There are real serious challenges. I have devoted more than 20 years to being on the Democratic Town Committee in Hartford, as well as in a number of nonprofits. And right now, I'm very concerned about AI. I'm not frightened of it. I don't believe AI has any agency in and of itself, okay? I'm dismayed by the number of ways in which we describe AI as if we're human. So I'm not afraid of Skynet, except to the extent that the United States government wants to have, and the Ukrainians are busy creating autonomous weapons. You know, I mean, did you not see Terminator? So there are potential downsides, and I'm meeting with a group called the Charter Oak Risk and Foresight Council, which is just a group of local people drawn primarily from the insurance industry who meet to discuss and try to divine what we should be doing as individuals and as a collective to ensure that the dystopian potential of AI is not realized, that we have the benefits without the really serious negative consequences. In general, I think most people will tell you that I'm a passionate guy. I can get very worked up with very little incitement and I enjoy that. For me, it's part of being alive.
I love that answer. And we always ask all of our guests as we get to the end of our time with them, Frank, you can do so many things, right? In your life, you're very accomplished. You have a lot of passions you shared with us and interests. So why do you wake up every day and do what you do?
Well, I wake up every day excited to see what's next. I meditate usually as soon as I get up, because if I start looking at my phone and stuff, my brain is popping, and I have a very productive sit in terms of solving a whole bunch of problems and remembering things that I need to do, but I'm not meditating. That's not meditation. That's
I totally agree with you.
And so if you want to stay vertical, get vertical. I mean, I occasionally lift weights, but not a whole lot. And I once in a while get on the elliptical that we mostly hang clothes on. But I do like to get out into the community. I like to walk. I like to see what's happening. How are the trees and bushes doing in Bushnell Park? What new storefronts have opened up? We just noticed one on Park Street when we were coming home the other day from Parkville Market. So I think it's really important, if you want to be part of society, to be engaged. You don't have to be an extrovert. I happen to be an extrovert. My wife is an introvert, and we sort of balance out in that way. But I think you need a certain lively and supported internal life in order to have a lively and effective external life. I remember going to a personal growth workshop in the mid-'80s. I was in my mid-30s, and I was having a rough time. I was, and still am to a certain extent, a bit of a control freak. Then I was a real control freak. And I remember the workshop conductor saying to all of us, when you allow yourself to get angry and upset, you project that outward negatively, okay? You are losing control of the only thing you can control in life, and that is your own response to life. So that hit me really strongly. And from that point onward, I was really focused on how do I manage my own internal process. That's part of the reason the meditation technique that was taught by the Buddha is so attractive to me. The Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree, according to legend, and said, I'm not going to move until I figure out what's going on inside. And he used his body as the laboratory for understanding consciousness and how it works, how it operates. And I find it works very well for me. I recommend it to people, but of course, everybody has to find their own path. But finding a path is absolutely essential to having a life, because we're all going somewhere and not just to the grave.
I think that's great advice that you've shared. You're living it, you're participating in it. You're not just saying, this is what I think. You're actually living your brand, which is you have purpose, you keep going, you keep joining boards, you're very involved in the community, you're helping the insurance industry, which is music to my ears, even though I am personally in the annuity side of the house versus the property and casualty, but we're all consumers. And I think it does our hearts good when we see individuals like you that take your knowledge, your experience, and you're also transferring it to younger generations, which I love that as well. So Frank, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Actually, LinkedIn is probably the best way. If you're on LinkedIn, my contact information is in my LinkedIn profile, but it's easy. I'm happy to say H is my cell. My email is Frank. That's the first half of my last name and the last half of Annette's last name. When we got married, a friend of hers was asking her whether she was going to change her name, and she asked me about it. I said, whatever you want, of course. And she started coming up with combined names. And I was like, wait, you want me to change my name? I take it back. No, don't change your name. But I gave her a URL instead. So my consulting firm is Sentwood Consulting, and it is a joint effort between the two of us.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Thank you for joining me today, Frank, on the Prime Life podcast. It's always good to catch up with you. To our listeners, we thank you for following us and for commenting, and we hope everyone has a great day. See you next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks, Frank.
Remember to subscribe to the Prime Life podcast anywhere you find podcasts. You can find all of our episodes, contact information, and more on our website, primelifepodcast.com. Stay connected with us. Follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.